You could accept the fact that this city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
You don't get this kind of action.
That's the way our stuff
Here. It's because you guys are here.
It was a legitimate call. It was pass interference. I don't care what anybody says.
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
You call runs when you're not supposed to, and Dak Prescott is throwing it in the dirt.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the G's and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Know-It-Alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show.
Oh, yeah.
We were locked and loaded, ready to go. We're already into week 11, everybody.
Yeah, it's cruising right along.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that it's cruising right along so fast, but a lot has happened. Now we have new developments on Drew Brees. Sounds like Drew Brees won't be back as soon as once was hoped. He's got like 5 fractured ribs. He's got not a punctured lung, but it's like kind of a collapsed lung. So I know New Orleans fans out there. I know the Saints organization. They were kind of hoping that he'd be back in 2 to 3 weeks. Now it seems like maybe it's going to be a little bit longer for his healing process to go. But they do have none other than famous Jameis Winston, to the rescue.
Yeah, absolutely. We thank you guys for joining us here on Football on the Know Show. Join us on YouTube on Football on the Know Show there, and also on Twitter, FB_Know. And we're going live here on Facebook as well. Football on the Know with Jim and Joe. All right, here we go. Jameis Winston's in now. People have been waiting for this day. The question was asked there when the season started, are we going to be able to see Jameis here?
Right.
What's going to happen? Because we've heard about Sean Payton saying how much he loves Taysom Hill and this guy and how many tools he's got, you know, and he throws them out there in the plays that he's made and backs him up, says he can be a quarterback in the NFL. But when it comes down to it again, Drew Brees goes down. Yeah. You say that Jameis is the guy,
right?
You know,
he's chosen him?
Yeah, he's chosen him over Taysom. Yeah, exactly. It's like instead of giving Taysom 100% of the reps, because he has been getting time here and there. He's a main third down type of guy that he has out there. Get that short yardage where he has to run.
Yeah, he's like the X factor.
90% of the time he's running, but I still don't throw a couple times, get a name at least. But now Jameis Winston moves forward. This is the people were asking about. What were we going to see? His chance to kind of reinvent himself moving forward, because a lot of people know of with this guy is his past year, where we've joked about it as well others have with the 30 for 30. And he knew he's slimmed down. He's gotten the surgery to correct his eyes, and
that's right.
A lot of
he's
different
got better
things.
eyes, everybody.
Yeah. So I mean, has he changed? You know, working with Sean Payton under that system, has he gotten better? Eliminate some of those mistakes.
I mean, that's the thing though, is he's with a better coaching staff, a better coach to utilize his talents, and maybe Sean Payton is going to devise a game plan using Jameis to all of his strengths and none of his weaknesses. And if that's the case, you might see a better, more improved Jameis Winston. And how could he not be more improved, especially with the weapons that he has now? I mean, in Tampa, don't get me wrong, he had Mike Evans, he had guys like that to throw to. But now you're with the Saints. You got guys like Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. You got guys like Jared Cook at tight end. You got guys like Michael Thomas. I mean, that's got to be one of your favorite targets now. And Emmanuel Sanders is there this season. So there's a lot to like in New Orleans in terms of weaponry. And hopefully, for Jameis' sake, hopefully it pans out and he plays fairly well for the New Orleans Saints.
Absolutely. We've got Mike Tackett is in the house with us tonight.
What's going on, Mike? Welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, it's been way too long, guys. Let's give Taysom credit for what he is, a utility player.
Yep.
Jameis is an experienced and former franchise quarterback. There you go, hashtag 30 for 30. And, yeah, I mean, and this is what you're trying to find with this guy. Because a lot of people saw, there's a lot of potential. He was a number 1 overall pick there. I mean, so he was looking to be that franchise quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He has been able to put up the air yards, but then also, again, just make some of those bonehead mistakes. Has he been able to learn that along with these guys under a Hall of Famer quarterback? I mean, that's one thing he hasn't had a chance to do either. Work with a Hall of Fame quarterback sit behind, learn some of the things. What does he do different? Especially Drew Brees, who is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL and doesn't throw a whole lot of interceptions and things like that.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And Jameis, another issue that he had was fumbling. You turn over the ball that way as well. So
absolutely.
You can only expect with the New Orleans Saints as an organization that they've been working day and night over correcting that issue and making him be able to secure the ball and not be able to not fumble as often, as well as working on his decision making. Not to force the football where you shouldn't go with it. You're going to have to go to your second and maybe sometimes third or fourth read before you throw the football. Not lock into the first guy. A lot of times he was locked in with Mike Evans and just wanted to get the ball to Mike Evans or the tight end. You know what I mean? So
he utilized Cameron Brate a lot, and that's the thing, though. What people would ask you or question about him, though, as well, is because he had a lot of talent with that team as well. And the record that he has really is 28-42 there with Tampa Bay, and couldn't get a winning season going here with them with the tools that he had, at his use. So now he's got the same type of thing here with New Orleans. It's a big question mark in a sense. What are we going to see? I think he can still play well in this with this system and the way that this team is set up. Plus, the defense isn't playing as well as past years, but still good enough. And especially to take this division. They had that little bit of a lead on Tampa, so right now Tampa's probably smelling a little blood here. Luckily, they've already taken two games against Tampa, so you don't have to worry about them in case there is some sort of tie for the division. They can have them on that part. But is he efficient enough to get them into the playoffs? Absolutely.
That's the interesting thing, too, is that Sean Payton, listen, he worked with Teddy Bridgewater. A lot of teams didn't want to touch Teddy Bridgewater when he was a free agent, but Sean Payton said, you know what, I could work with this guy. And he developed an offense around Teddy Bridgewater to help him progress as a quarterback, eventually earning him a starting gig now with the Carolina Panthers. So can he do the same thing for Jameis Winston? Possibly. And as long as Winston shows that he still has that potential, that capability that everybody was enamored with when he got drafted, quite honestly, he could earn himself another starting gig elsewhere. So it's up to Jameis, it's up to Sean Payton and their staff. Can they make this work? Let's wait and see. I'll tell you this right now. If Sean Payton can make Jameis Winston work as a quarterback, he's got to be considered one of the greatest coaching minds ever.
Absolutely.
Because not only has he done it once before with Teddy, but to do it twice with a quarterback, that's pretty impressive.
Right. Well, it's a great franchise altogether. And if you look at it, too, top to bottom, he had issues with an offensive line there in Tampa as well. And at that time, Ronald Jones wasn't, they didn't have a real running back stepping up to be that guy. So they have a real running game. That's why he ended up with 5,000 passing yards there.
And it's funny.
Felt like he had to drive it through there and make passing plays. They were always behind and couldn't run the ball, so he'd try and throw it. And that's where you get. Yes, he did lead the league with 5,000 passing yards, which is amazing too. But he also had all those turnovers along.
And it's funny too. You look at Rojo. And how much of a change he's gone through. Yes, it's taken several years, but some players blossom later, and Ronald Jones now is just blossoming now right before our eyes, and he's not only taken command of that backfield, but man, look at what he did last week. Last week he had 196 rushing yards. You know what I mean? Really, just to supplant his name out there in the NFL, in NFL circles, just to say, hey, listen, I've arrived. I am the starting quarterback going forward for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I can be an impactful and elite style running back. So, I mean, Ronald Jones is making a name for himself right now this season, and a lot of people, me included, didn't think it was going to ever happen. And now we're being shown the way.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be an interesting road here if you take a look at their schedule moving forward. They have the Falcons twice, and then they have the Broncos in between those two games. the Eagles, the Chiefs, and then the Vikings here. Vikings are starting to make a little bit of a push here. Chiefs still up there, one of the more elite teams here for the AFC, sitting there at 8-1. Right. I mean, so that'll be a tough game for them there. But again, these other games here are winnable. The Broncos don't look so hot. The Falcons are definitely not what they were when they went to the Super Bowl a few years back. And the Eagles are really struggling right now. Trying to find, I mean, they're at terms with each other where now it's almost a pitted coach versus quarterback at this point.
Right?
Does it kind of seem that way with the Eagles when you look at it? It's like. They interviewed Doug Peterson, and he says it's this. And then, you look at Carson Wentz, he's like, oh, you're making too many mistakes there, too. And everybody's trying to figure out a finger to point at. Who are they going to take the blame for it? Is it more Doug Peterson? Is it more, Carson Wentz? And then Brett Favre gets involved, and he's like, you kept the wrong guy and everything. So that even fuels the fire there in Philly. We know how those fans are over there. They get pretty crazy, and they love their team. And it was Pennsylvania for a bit now, but now a lot of people, question what he's doing here with the decisions he's making there. So.
Right, and that's the thing is everyone's starting to see Carson Wentz for who he actually is. And Doug Peterson is being exposed as well. I would say it's both of their faults. Doug Peterson and his play calling sometimes is just absolutely terrible. And Carson Wentz makes terrible decisions as a quarterback out there. So, listen, we all criticize Wentz for his injury history that he has. But now it's not injury history. He's staying healthy so far. It's just the decision-making, the plays that he's trying to force to happen. You just can't do it. And I don't see the Carson Wentz that I once saw when he first entered the league. He looked like the real deal when he was there for the first couple of years. And now we're not seeing that same quarterback before. We're seeing a guy that's forcing stuff. We're seeing a guy making terrible decisions, trying to throw it into double coverage, trying to take off running when he probably shouldn't have, just to, create some more time and then throw it to, X player that's only like 3 yards away from you. You know what I mean? Like little check down stuff like that to keep the ball rolling. It seems like he's trying to do too much, too often, and it's biting him in the butt every single week.
Right. And now bringing up what Mike here says about Taysom Hill, I was just looking at the comment again and just thinking about it. And Sean Payton can kind of say what you want, but like he said, let's see him for what he really is, a utility player. You can see it there, too. I mean, you can see when he's out there because he has had to stay in the pocket a little bit and try to make some of the throws. He's still not there with the reads. I don't trust him for a lot of things there. And even when he is a runner, like they try to use him as a runner, he's more like he reminds me of Fargus kind of in a sense there. He's just like face forward, just go. I mean, he's not like a finesse type of player. He's more like I'm going to power through and just, go in this direction and just go for it.
He's a physical guy, but he definitely has, he definitely
can make some moves. I understand you there.
He definitely makes some things happen, and he's hard to bring down.
He is. Yeah.
I mean, for a guy of his stature, exactly. For a guy his stature who played quarterback in college, who shows glimpses like maybe he could in the NFL. It's just interesting to me that as long as Taysom Hill's been with the franchise, he still hasn't yet been given an actual legitimate shot at that starting spot. And I wonder if that'll ever happen because he is very, very important to this offense as a whole. We've seen him in special teams as well, like doing returns sometimes, blocking, going down to tackle, the return man. He does a bunch of different things for this team. It's almost like they don't want to give him the starting job because he's too important with everything else that he does.
And I agree with you there too. I was just thinking the same exact thing about that is because he does so much on the field in multiple ways.
Oh yeah,
that to have him there as a full-time starter, you would have to take him out of special teams.
Right, because we've seen
you
him
would
play,
have to take him out. On
right,
certain
we've
things.
also seen him in
punt
the offense,
returns and coverage.
Right, we've also seen him in the offense at running back. We've seen him as a wide receiver. We've seen him throw the football. We've seen him in trick plays. It's almost like it's Sean Payton's little Decepticon.
Right.
Like he's interchangeable. He can do everything. Whatever you want him to do, he's going to do, and he's going to do it well. And because of that factor, it's almost like they just don't want to miss that type of player that they have. now that they have him and being able to utilize him the way they see fit, it's almost like if you took him away from all that he does, it would definitely change the team as a whole.
Yep.
That is correct.
And that
Thanks,
changes your game plan, because his game plan
definitely.
always is, again, you have your quarterback out there, and then you bring Taysom in on like a third down
just
or whatever in
different
your place.
downs. Yeah.
Now it would be him full time. Again, like you said, it would alleviate from there. That changes your whole game plan.
Yeah,
You know
don't,
what I mean?
and they don't have another player like him.
Right.
I don't. Who else has a player like Taysom Hill?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you really think
exactly.
about it, I don't even know
We
if
have
there
other
is
teams
a
that
guy.
have other type of utility guys, I guess, in a
Right.
sense,
But not-
nothing to that type of stature.
not a
you
guy
said.
like him that can do literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see him play linebacker, to be honest.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what his ball reading skills are.
That's right.
But yeah, moving forward, let me throw this out here. Because again, people have tried to throw it out there. Some of these quarterbacks that were in the offseason that needed a second chance. We're getting to see some of them now. Cam Newton looked like he was starting off a little hot, then kind of struggled. You can blame that, time away from the field with the COVID response and all this stuff. But now, again, he seems like he's back on. They're winning again or whatever. They had a win after they won last week somehow. But, all right, so basically I'm just going to throw it out there.
Okay.
This point moving forward,
Yeah.
who has a better rest of the season, Jameis Winston or Cam Newton?
I'll say Jameis Winston, and I'll give you a couple of reasons on top of that as well. Cam Newton. The reason why I feel Cam Newton was red hot early on is because their schedule. Their first few games of their schedule were such a cakewalk for them. It was almost like it was a perfect setup for Cam to take over the team right away, because they had a few games that should be easily attainable. If he did commit some mistakes, they could overcome them and still win those games. And you just saw Cam Newton kind of like, oh my God, he's amazing again, just because they played these weaker teams. Now, as you see him go through a tougher part of the schedule, loss. They just kept losing games all of a sudden because they're playing better talent. And now last week I don't know what happened. I mean, the Ravens, I was like, how are the Ravens losing this game? How is this happening right now? Well, quite simply, the Ravens' defense just couldn't stop the run, and that's the number one thing you need to do against the Patriots. You got to stop the run. You got to stop the running backs from running the ball. You got to stop Cam Newton from running the football, and that's really how that offense goes.
Exactly.
In New
Like
England.
you said, in New England now they made that offense to fit him, kind of like.
Oh,
You've seen it. That's why
You've seen changes.
Yeah. You saw that when they brought in Norv Turner over there with the Panthers to try and correct some of the things, more shorter passes if he had to, and utilize the run a little more to affect his strengths and make him look like a better player, or at least the team run smoother. And that's what the Patriots have done here for Cam Newton, and it's been able to work.
Yeah.
But again, teams, it seemed like some of them, especially the Jets there, were pressing them hard, seemed to figure it out what they were
had
doing.
him on the hook,
and
man.
had them and couldn't do
Oh.
it. But again, what were the Ravens doing? The Ravens should have been able to watch that tape and been able to figure out the personnel that they had on defense.
It's not.
And that
not
offense
hard.
really was struggling. Again,
Yeah.
I know Lamar Jackson, he wants to try and prove to everybody that he can pass the ball here and there, and I understand that. But you got to take what they give him. And there was too many times on that field to where there was an open field up in the middle, and he could have just took off running, but he hesitated, stayed in the pocket, tried to find a guy to get open. There was nothing there, and then finally when he went, made a little something out of it, but nothing that he could have probably.
But it could have been
already.
more.
Yeah,
it could have been more impactful.
and I think it affected the team in the way they were able to.
For sure,
to be
especially on offense.
productive.
And we've already heard from Hollywood Brown that he's extremely upset. He's not being utilized more in this offense because the passing game, let's face it, John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, said in a statement before the season started, we are going to throw the ball more this year. We are going to be more of a balanced offense. Did we see that? No. Honestly, we haven't. They've been running the football more often. So I don't see a big difference. I don't see them throwing the ball more often. I see Lamar Jackson trying to become that more of a passing quarterback, but in turn, that's actually hurting the offense as altogether. So you're right. I feel like Lamar Jackson isn't running the football as much because he's trying to prove a point, and in turn, it's actually hurting this offense. As far as Cam Newton goes, the Patriots offense really hasn't changed. The only thing that they changed was more running plays for Cam. That's really it. That's the only wrinkle that they threw in.
Right, but you don't see
offense.
Tom Brady running in a read option at all.
No, but I'm saying that's the wrinkle because
Right.
Cam is there.
Right.
But they're still throwing those 3-yard passes, the 4-yard passes, the little dump offs. You know what I mean? That's still there. So there's nothing to worry about. If you're playing the Patriots and you're worried about them throwing the ball deep, why? They haven't shown me that they've all of a sudden become this like deep throwing team and they're going to attack you deep all the time. No, they're going to take the high percentage throws and because that's the easy thing, and then run the ball. And if you can't stop the run, you've already pretty much lost.
Right, and what we've seen here with Cam Newton, too, is still his inaccuracy with some of those balls,
Oh, for
too,
sure.
where he
Yeah.
throws it. So. Yeah, exactly. I know, Cam Newton. So, and then you got to see with them, their running back Brown too has really emerged for them too. It seems like the Patriots always have some guy, no name that comes
Damian
in.
Harris.
Damian, yeah, that's what it is. Damian Harris that comes in and be able to play and get them going through some teams and find that hidden gem. But yeah, so I mean, if you put the two together, Cam Newton and Jameis Winston here, who's going to have the better rest of the season? I think I'm along with you too as well. I think he can keep the ship afloat here. And they said Drew Brees' injury 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know about that. I think it's going to be longer than that, too, because it is a stretch, I mean, I've talked to other health professionals about this particular injury and things like that.
I'm going to say 4 to 6.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's a little longer because, again, when you're talking about bone fractures, especially the ribs here and both sides, and your star quarterback, mind you, who this is even you kind of go all in on. He's on a 2-year contract. This is his first of the 2 years. Yeah. And you're trying to press here to make it. You're not going to march him back out there, put a big, flak jacket on him or whatever, and try, here you go with the bruised ribs, cracked ribs still, and you throw him out there again, see what happens.
You know what?
Even with a collapsed lung, I mean,
this
I don't think it's smart. I say you keep him reserved. Jameis Winston can ride out the rest of the season, right up into the Vikings game. And I still think you make the playoffs here because if you look at the NFC as well, it's
as a
very
whole,
diluted.
Oh, my God.
It is way worse than the AFC. I can tell you that. I mean, the AFC, like I said, there's going to be 8-8 teams that are going to be sitting outside the playoffs. Meanwhile, on the opposite side in the NFC, there are going to be tons of them in there. Yeah. So it's going to be like that, and I think he has enough to get it going. Rest him, and then head into the playoffs. Bring Drew Brees in there.
And this is the other thing that Saints fans especially got to be aware of is Drew Brees. This could possibly be his last season as a Saint. He could retire after this year, especially after an injury like this. This could really shift that whole idea of of retirement into high gear because Drew Brees in the past 3 to 4 years has always every single season at the end of the year talks to his family, thinks about going forward. Should he play another season? Should he not? Should he retire? Now, after sustaining an injury this late in his career, maybe it's going to be a little bit of a wake-up call that by the end of the season, maybe, just maybe, it's enough to say, you know what, my health is a little bit more important. I want to do things with my family, and I think I'm going to call it quits now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see what happens moving forward with that team. But again, we have Jameis Winston in there. We get to see what he can do. We saw a little bit last week. He went 6-10, I think it was 6 out of 10. So
to be fair, though,
in there,
to be fair though, for Jameis, this week we're going to really get to see how good he could be in this Saints offense because. You remember, he was thrust into that game. Didn't have the first team reps all week or anything like that to establish chemistry, to get comfortable with the starters. So this week, he's going to have all the reps. They're going to have a game plan set up for specifically him and this offense. Let's see how good he can execute it.
All right, yeah. So moving next on to first let us know, what do you guys think out there about Jameis Winston going in there for the Saints, and how do you think the Saints are going to go? Will they march on? Do you think they're going to falter, and it gives Tampa Bay an opportunity to march in here too? Because Tampa Bay has a rough road, I think, too, further with the rest of the seation as well. So it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be tight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this season has been different and like no other that we've dealt with, anyways, with the way COVID has been affecting everything in the game. games and players and personnel and everything. And we're still dealing with it week to week as we move further, trying to get ultimately to the Super Bowl. And they even issued the whole thing about the Pro Bowl, the changes this year, which, again, it was kind of weird. I wasn't really keen with too, but whatever. It is what it is. You can't really, I guess, hold it. And nobody cared about the Pro Bowl that much either.
I never watched the Pro Bowl game.
Yeah, I know. I haven't in, I don't know how long, 20 years probably. So, I mean, I know they're trying to keep in with what the kids are doing, I don't want to say it that way. It's what the kids are doing, in Madden. Yeah. But, whatever. It is what it is. It's a different year. But speaking of COVID, the Raiders, again, Cleveland Farrell just got, tested positive. So they looked at everybody who was maybe in contact with them, which was a lot of the defense and things. And they're going to be on that watch, which much like Ben Roethlisberger was. You're on that watch list where you got 5 days or whatever. If you don't test positive in any of those, you're ready to play. So that your defense, the Raiders, I know you're a Raiders fan here. Why you guys should probably know this already. Most of the defense should be able to be back. If some of them test positive, though, you got some major issues there.
No, it's really not a big deal. It's a precautionary move. And to be honest, as long as those players test negative leading up to Sunday night's game, they're going to play. So as big of a deal is like the article's making it, it's really not. You got a couple of players who they put on that list Tuesday, which Furrow was one. Also, Jonathan Abram was another one. Yep. And Corey Littleton. And basically, like, there was, like, 8 starters or something like that on defense, that they're in that protocol. But that's fine because, you know what? Every single team is doing this every single week.
Every time.
So, I mean, as long as they test negative leading up to the game, they're going to be playing just like any other team. So this is the new normal, everybody. Yeah. Like, this isn't going away. Like, this COVID-19, like, we're going to have to deal with this in the future. Like, it's not going away. Yes, we're going to have a vaccine, that's going to take care of it and so forth. Just like the flu. When the flu first got here, and that was a new thing to us, the same kind of thing happened. It was a pandemic. It was, people passed away, unfortunately, and it was a sad time, and we're just going through it again. It's just a different strain of the flu. We're going to get through this. We just got to keep grinding. And bronchitis. I'm not sure if that works, but nonetheless, like, we're going to get through it, and eventually everything will get back to normal.
Right, and I heard even 28 out of the 32 teams have already been going through this type of thing. The Giants, their kicker, Graham Gano, he tested positive. And then, again, like you said, they did a protocol where anybody might have been in contact. This is sad even for Graham Gano because he just got an extension for one. But then the only other person that was in contact with him was the punter. So now the punter's on the Gano. So now their kicker and their punter potentially can be out. But that's the only person that's been around him. It's like, that's sad. None of the team, like, hangs out with him. It's like, no, we know we don't hang out with him. All right, so I mean, but yeah, you're dealing with that all the time. And again, so the league goes and stiffens it, the protocols that they've had, which again, virtual meetings.
And that's the thing too, is like you also look at the Chiefs. They're another team that's almost like half their offensive line they put on the COVID list. Do I think everybody is going to eventually have a negative right before Sunday? I feel like that's what's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
It's more like when you see all these teams saying, "Oh, well, we got 3 or 4 guys that are going on the COVID list." Usually, it's just a precautionary thing. If they test positive, then they get put into that whole protocol where, like, it takes they wait 5 days, and within those 5 days, if they still testing positive, then they're gonna have to sit out for a little while. But I feel like a lot of these teams that are going through this right now, as long as your players before game time, they test and throughout the week, if they keep testing negative, they're going to be good to go.
And what I thought was pretty interesting is the weight room capacity thing. Weight room capacity will be reduced to 10 players and 5 staff members at any time in mass. We warn at all times, but it says, where is it? It says something about they have the no eating and cafeterias. Everybody has to get on the go to walking in, on the go. But they were saying something. It's not in here. It shows it, but like only a certain amount of players, like very limited, able to be like on a machine at one time or whatever. And they have to transit out, and they have to have scheduled like workout times. You know what I mean? Like, here's my appointment to go work out now, and you can only do it for like 10 minutes or something, or 15 minutes. It was like ridiculous. Like, I don't know any player that's like, I'm just going to go a 10-minute run or just lift for 10 minutes or 15 minutes and be done. I mean, it's really messing with that, and I think warming up for the games, and I think that's partially some of these things that we saw, I think, with injuries again. I mean, not only the lack of camps that we had before the season started, but dealing not being able to be together and practicing a lot and in the gyms together and working out for long periods of time.
But here's the problem that I have with all this. Like, okay, they give them more stricter guidelines. However, they all play together. They all practice together.
Yeah,
like
it's a contradiction.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, oh, we're gonna do stricter guidelines, and you're not gonna be allowed in there unless we have like 10 players in this huge gym that teams have. We're gonna only allow 10 guys in there, work out and everything, and then the next 10 every half hour or whatever. Like, then game day, there's no face masks being worn. I mean, some players on the sidelines wear them, but it's not required for the players to wear them. They all, when they go out in the football field, nobody's wearing them because they're playing. And you're going, and it's a physical game, and people are getting hit. People are talking and jabbering back and forth. Like, after the game, they're hugging, they're high fiving, and all this stuff. It's like all these stricter guidelines that you're putting in, it gets thrown out the window on game day. Like, yeah, the coaches and the staff, they got to abide by everything and wear the face mask all the time. And if you don't, you get fined, and your team gets fined and possibly lose a draft pick. Now it's getting out of hand, really. I mean, come on. The coaching staff and the players are together all the time anyway. So I don't understand what the deal is with the face mask. Maybe after the game, put the face mask on because you're going to go shake a hand of the opponent or something like that. That I'm cool with. I get that. But come on. These guys have been practicing and everything else together, and then game day, like, oh, now you guys can be next to each other.
I think what is strange though too is because they are saying one of the part of the guidelines again is when you're doing some of the workouts with your gear on and stuff like that, they want you to wear that Oakley face shield, which we've showed on our show and you've seen probably.
But they all aren't doing that.
But they're not doing it during the game.
No.
Why is nobody wearing
That's part of the helmet,
Oakley,
actually.
Oh, yeah, it's part of the helmet. That's what I'm saying. Why aren't they wearing them during the games? And if they have to wear them in other things.
It's optional.
Well, they're making it mandatory in certain areas and what you have to do now. That's what it is. You have to mandatory wear it here and do that. Why didn't they just from the start make that mandatory?
But the thing is like that is something that gets screwed in. Like it's not something that you can take in and out.
No,
like
yeah,
in between
I know.
plays
I hear
or
you
anything
there.
like that.
No, that's what I mean. But
I think that's a little. I think that's a little absurd. And there's a lot of players in this league that are totally against that. They don't want that.
Well, I bet. All guys like visors, unless they would have a visor.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Not
some
everybody
like
has
tinted
a visor.
visors, some like clear ones.
Exactly.
I get it. I mean,
it's
it's tough, but all right. Now let's focus on your Raiders again too, because this is the main focal point I think of this issue, because you have had the multiple offenses that the Raiders are involved.
So haven't
with.
The Saints?
Yes, they have a bit, but again, now this focuses now on the Raiders again.
So haven't the Titans? I mean, there's a lot of teams like.
Yeah, the Titans were one of them.
Oh, major.
Yeah, I know. I hear you there, but I'm just saying
and they
the most
get
recent.
Hit hard.
The most recent again because none of the other teams have lost a draft pick, basically.
No, I know that, but they should have.
Right, possibly.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Titans had the worst case of everything. They had to shut their damn facility down. Raiders didn't have to shut their facility down. There's only a couple of things. Oh, well, the head coach is not wearing the face mask all the time on the sideline. Big freaking deal. You want to look at all these other coaches? Every single coach, I don't care who you are, every single head coach is taking their face mask off to yell at a player, to yell at the ref, to scream, a change in the play or something like that. Just because the camera isn't on them all the time when they do it, we've seen it. I've seen Mike Vrabel just barely get his face mask back up over his face after he yelled something as the camera panned to him. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous to pinpoint. You want to pinpoint and point the finger at the Raiders or at the Titans about stuff or this. It's all the teams. In the NFL, if they're going to come down on one team and say, like, okay, Raiders, guess what? You lose your 6th-round pick and you get these 2 fines. Whereas the Saints, they've had 2 fines but no draft pick. Now, they're just as bad as the Raiders. The Titans are even worse than both teams. The Titans had their facility shut down. They had more than multiple players test positive. They've had their staff test positive. They got other players on a different team caught COVID from them while they played the game. And for all that to happen and transpire, and the Titans don't get a draft pick taken away, they don't get heavily fined. Like, it's all the teams. It's not just one team. Like, yeah, Raiders they're the only team so far that's gotten a draft pick taken away. But if the NFL wants to be fair about this, then you need to go after all these teams. And it's a little ridiculous. I think draft picks to take away a draft pick because your head coach or a staff member wasn't wearing a face mask on the sideline or something like that, I think that's a little over the top. Mm-hmm. I understand they're trying to make it serious, but I think the fines alone are pretty serious. You see some of these fines?
Yeah.
$500,000, $250,000, mm-hmm. like pretty steep fines. So I mean, I think that gets your point across. I don't think you need to be taking draft picks away.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean,
damn
that
right.
really got out of hand fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is a little ridiculous.
Well, yeah, no, and I understand you're even defensive about your team, though, too, because of it all, because it kind of seems now at this point, they're kind of getting picked on because I think, again, they're the ones that held that they were first seen on camera with holding that function to where they raised money. Nobody was wearing masks here and there, so they got that. And Gruden, multiple times without the mask, got fined here and there. Mm-hmm. So now with Cleveland Farrell getting tested positive and another thing brought back up into the media again, the media, I think, wants to make a big deal out of it and try to see if they want to make an example out of it.
But
is
it's
this
not
going
a
to
big
happen?
deal.
Do you think they're getting picked on? Do you think they're getting picked on now? No?
I think they're just not – listen, the NFL is just not being fair all around. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, the draft pick came away from the Raiders. The Titans should have lost the draft pick in that case. They were way worse than any team in the league. It was absolutely ridiculous. They almost couldn't play 2 weeks in a row because of that spread in the Titans locker room, and the Chiefs got affected by it, and things like that nature. So if any team needs to get, if you want to take draft picks away, you should have took one away first from the Titans. They were the most serious offender of all this. And yeah, I get it. The Raiders, whatever. Gruden wasn't wearing his face mask on the sideline and everything, but Sean Payton's just as bad. Sean Payton is just as bad as Gruden. Mm-hmm. He hardly ever wears that damn face mask. He's always pulling it down, putting it back up, pulling it down, yelling. But all coaches do it. So if you're going to penalize now the Raiders and their coaching staff and everything else like that, and you're going to take a draft pick away from them, at the very least, your most serious offenders like the Tennessee Titans, like the New Orleans Saints, like others that aren't even being associated with all this, they should be hit just as hard. Mm-hmm. They should all be missing a 6th-round pick or whatever. Like, so, I mean, that's the thing is, like, do I think they're finger-pointing the Raiders? No, because the Raiders were in the wrong. Mm-hmm. They did violate the rules. But these other teams violated the rules, and all the Saints got was heavy fines. That's it. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, then the Raiders should have only got heavy fines. Mm-hmm. You want to take a draft pick away, Tennessee Titans deserve to be taking a draft pick away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I always thought, too, like along with your line of thinking, that taking picks away, I think, is a little ridiculous. Yes, I understand crazy. You want to kind of put your name on it and say, like, look at what we're doing to try and stop this.
This is really serious, yeah.
We're trying to make this like this and then maybe to limit it. But you got to realize, and I try to explain it to people around me, too, because this is one of these things that not everybody's going to get it, but pretty much everybody could get this easily.
Right.
I mean, I got it, and I was doing everything that they're telling me to do. I'm washing my hands, not touching my face, wearing a mask in public. Still have to do shopping. I still have to touch things. Still have to move it around. Other people, thousands of people are doing things.
Oh, yeah.
Don't have pump gas here and there. You can wipe down as much as you can. People don't always do the same thing, and no matter what you even do, you can't trust that somebody else is going to be doing that same exact thing for you. And that's the problem that you're dealing with, and that's the thing you can never change in this country. You know what I mean? Not everybody's going to think the same. Not everybody's going to be on the same page, and it's going to happen. And so for you to, like you said, take it away from them, yes, they had made some poor decisions along the way at times. But again, it was still where even this virus is not understood. Now, if people are still going through it all. And we're in the midst of the second wave that's coming along that's hitting harder now than ever. Right. Because, again, we've tried to go from a complete shutdown to sprinkle a little bit here, sprinkle of that, try to get a little more normalcy going. Right. And here's the next wave around there. So I agree with you there, too, in a sense. You know, I figured I'd ask the question, though, and throw it out there because, again, this is the question that's going to be asked by a lot of media and people out there. And along with the fact that, too, are they going to investigate in some of these things and see if they're doing any more wrongdoing with this team? You know what I'm saying? And it's tough because I think even this coming game, the Chiefs and the Raiders, this is a marquee game. This is a game I think that they want to be televised. They don't want to flex out. They don't want to change, you know, and bypass it because the one team that beat the Chiefs was the Raiders. And
they're the only team.
The only team. And this is what media is asking right now. Who is the next best team in the AFC besides the Chiefs? And at this point, right now, it needs to be the Raiders, I guess, at this point.
I don't think so.
You know?
They don't have the defense.
No, they don't. But if you look at it, they beat them. Nobody else has so far.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So I guess you just would have to put it in line.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah, they're the only team that beat the Chiefs.
Because that's the way they said it last year, too. Well, who else was you could be able to beat the Chiefs? Well, I mean, you know, the Patriots were able to do it, or, you know, Baltimore can play them hard.
If you're talking about AFC, it's the Steelers. They're undefeated.
They're undefeated.
They're the next team right now.
Right.
I mean, unless the Raiders if they can win Sunday night and upset the Chiefs yet again, they'll be that much closer to be taking that division. Because then the Chiefs will be 8-2. The Raiders will be, 7-3? So they'll be a game back from the Chiefs. Then it's just a matter of time because it seems like if you look at the Raiders' schedule, their schedule gets a little easier in the second half of their season, and the Chiefs, I don't think it gets that easy.
They got to play a few teams. Like I said, they got the Saints they have to play at one point. I don't know if Drew Brees would be back by then. It's the second from the last week, so 2 to 3 weeks.
And that's another team.
Drew Brees could come back. You know, but the Saints.
Yeah,
so that's in the NFC.
That's another. No, that's another team the Raiders beat.
Yeah,
they beat the Saints with Drew Brees.
Right. That's what you're looking at quality of wins. If you want to place it the way people do with college and stuff like that, you want to look at quality
ranking
wins.
System.
Yeah, that's where people question even the Steelers. Because who did they beat? They beat the Giants, or they basically everybody in the NFC East.
But they are undefeated.
Yeah, they are
pretty
undefeated.
good.
I get you there. But again, it was a long road, and they almost lost to the Cowboys again, who at this point still was a bad team. Right. You're able to close games. How many teams have we seen that, they could go far but not close altogether? But I mean, that's the questions that are thrown out there, and this is what the NFL wants to have happen.
They want parity.
This is a game that they want to
parity.
See. They want to see. It's a divisional game. Right now, the Raiders are always still one of those teams, you've seen them. I mean, you've been a Raiders fan since your birth.
Yeah.
You've went through those hard years, that decade or so, where they were just bad.
It was more than a decade.
Yeah, and you stuck through it, and because the Raiders fans are there for them. Raiders fans are more true fans than a lot of other franchises I've ever seen out there. You know what I mean? No matter what, and they've just made the transition to Vegas, and I didn't see anybody really leave or anything like that. Any Raiders fans leave?
There's a couple of them, but
a few maybe. But are they really?
Yeah, but not to the extent where it made a difference.
I mean, they stay true to it, and this is one of those marquee franchises that is always going to have that following and be a big name, and they're playing well right now. Now against the so far the best team in the AFC here, most electrifying, as far as people that they have, offense that they have, the names, the Mahomes, Tyreek Hill,
Kelsey,
the matchups. This is what you want to see. This is there, and this is what they want to have here. And like you said, I mean, it doesn't get really easy. There's two games that they're probably going to have moving forward: the Broncos and the Falcons. But then they've got the Buccaneers, the Saints, and even the Dolphins. I think is a hard out.
Yeah,
tough out here,
especially the way they're playing right now.
So if the Chiefs do lose to the Raiders again, that means the Raiders have 2 wins in that division against them.
Yep.
And if they struggle against these other 3 teams,
They got the
that
tiebreaker
they got the
in case they do tie up. Yep.
So
yeah, it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting. And yeah, COVID again rolling through the NFL. We're dealing it week to week. We just heard the news about the Pro Bowl moving forward. That's going to be all different. A lot of people, again, it doesn't matter. They don't care and stuff. I would like to see a little more influence here with the fans and getting more streamers involved in playing and maybe and donating money or something to do with it, and maybe raise money to. Maybe for COVID relief, like somewhere, to raise
Something
things
like
for
that,
ventiliators, even some more or something.
Did you, by the chance, did you hear about the deal with Andy Reid and Gruden? Andy Reid wasn't happy about the buses basically taking like a victory lap around the Arrowhead Stadium.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it wasn't a victory lap.
Yeah.
So I just want to
find their way out of.
Just want to say this, set the record straight here. One of the bus drivers. It was a Chiefs fan, and he was talking all kinds of crap when the Raiders were getting on the bus. So, to piss him off, they just made him drive around the stadium.
Oh, so it was a joke for him.
Yeah. It was on the bus driver because even Gruden come out in one of his press conferences and said, "Hey, so if you know of an idiot bus driver in Kansas City who was going, mouthing off to us, he goes, that's why we drove the buses around. We made him drive around the stadium."
Nice.
Just to be,
excellent.
So
it should be cool, though. I mean, you're gonna see this.
But Andy Reid, Andy Reid is using that as bulletin board material, even though it's not really
right. Yeah.
It's
He's
not
just
legitimate.
As bad as some of those quarterbacks, they use it as a chip on his shoulder.
He's one of those coaches that does a great job of taking something that's not there and using it as fuel for his team the next time they meet up. So, not to mention. This is like the 3rd time in 4 years that the Chiefs will face the Raiders coming off of a bye week. And that's a huge advantage because now, and we already know how great of a coach Andy Reid is. You give him a bye week to prepare for your team, you got something coming.
Yeah.
I can only expect all the kind of trick plays he's got up his sleeve.
Offense is going to probably do what it's going to do. We can almost expect
I'm not worried about that. Now,
the defense, they probably have to, number one, attack, Josh Jacobs, stop the run. That's basically your number one thing, and then see what else, they can.
They tried that last time.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's got to be their number one target. That's what they got to do.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We've seen that when the Saints tried to do that, though, too. Then Darren Waller had a big game. So let's see what happens with them moving forward. It's the game that they want to see. Like I said, with COVID and the shutdown, this is not what the NFL really wants to see. So I don't think they're going to go after the Raiders on this one, myself either.
Oh, there's no investigation or anything. It's just a normal routine.
I mean, there's like up and again urging this to try and limit it. But I think it's just going to happen. It's going to roll through. People are going to keep getting it, and no matter what the precautions are. So everybody needs to chill out too. Stop buying all the toilet paper. Because I remembered when I had COVID and I was off for 2 weeks. I remember an extra urge for toilet paper was not one of the symptoms. I remember that. I didn't really need toilet paper.
Or paper towels.
Yeah, that wasn't part of it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, everybody needs to chill out on that and just relax. It's not the end of the world unless you make it that way. You can make it that way. Yeah. All right, here we go. It's going to be the Sunday night game at 8:20. I'm excited for that one. It should be exciting. We get to see the Death Star and the big lights again. That's right. So it's going to be cool. I'm sure Raider Bear, he's going to be on a little bit later tonight. In the West Coast, he's going to have a lot to talk about with some of this too as well too. So check that out. All right, so that brings us to our In the Know. Here we go. Fact of the day. That's right. All right, see, it's almost Thanksgiving. I decided to come up with this one. We're going to have a show still next Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving. I know everybody's going to be out. Well, no, you can't be out now because everybody's shutting everything down. So you won't be out partying on the night before Thanksgiving. You'll be here with us. All right, here we go. The first national radio broadcast of an NFL game was on the November 29th, 1934. Graham McNamee was the play-by-play announcer for the Detroit Lions Chicago Bears Thanksgiving Day game. There's you go. One of those classics Thanksgiving Day type of games here where you see the Lions and the Bears, and the Cowboys now every year on Thanksgiving. That's going to be interesting. because here in New York, I don't know about some of
the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, nobody's gonna watch some of these games. That's what I mean. Now the Lions one kind of looks like the best game. Let me see who they're gonna be playing next week, but I mean that might be the best one to watch at this point. But it's funny how, like I said, I don't know about other states, but here in New York, now the governor and the they're trying to tell you how many people you can have over for your Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, good
dinner
luck.
And everything and stuff
Good
like
luck,
that.
Cuomo, with that one.
Yeah, I mean, you can't only allow this many people here for your dinner.
You can't have you don't visit, don't go and have Thanksgiving dinner with your parents. Like, get out of here.
Meanwhile, he's going to have his big Italian dinners that they do.
You
and
know
like that.
that.
You know they're doing that.
You know his family's getting together, but no one else. I don't want anyone else doing anything.
Yeah, and he was urging law enforcement to enforce it and stuff like that. And here in Rensselaer County, they're the police officers. They already said, like, we're not doing any of that.
They don't have the force
it's ridiculous.
No,
I mean,
police
listen to
station.
what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
like,
imagine
seriously.
that going door to door to everybody in the county. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it is crazy. So I mean, Thanksgiving again, it's going to be different. It's going to be different this year than any other year. But we still will have football. As far as I know so far, we will, and we'll have that football. At least. That would be
for
positive.
Sure.
So, and where I'm going to be going. I am going to visit people. Well, maybe I should have said that on the air. I'm going to get in trouble now.
Shouldn't have said
They're going to hunt me down. But I will be watching, and it'll be exciting. It'll be nice. So I want to thank you guys definitely for joining us here tonight. And the comments and stuff. Light up the comments. We're here on Football on the No Show on YouTube. You can also check us out here on Facebook too. And join our group Football on the No Show as well, and like our page Football on the No with Jim and Joe, and follow us on Twitter FB_No. All right, so that's going to bring us to our picks competition, Joe. The picks competition is hot and heavy like it always is. It's getting close. This year seems like extra close. I don't know why. I just feel a lot of heat.
It's always like this.
Yeah, it is. It does. It goes down pretty much to the end, and the season is kind of rolling right by, too, so it's kind of sneaking up here. But looking at the picks competition, even though we picked 4 different games or so, we are still knotted up, tied. I had the lead going into Monday night, and the Bears let me down. Why did I go with the Bears? I just thought their defense was going to step up here and do something, which they did. Khalil Mack had a nice interception because of Adam Thielen. He's kind of weird. He's kind of a weird wide receiver. I mean, he's their number one, but he has those dumb moments, kind of like to where, like, dude, he can make a one-handed. Like, in that game, he had a one-handed touchdown catch. Yep. But then some of the ones that are right in front of him, especially that interception, it was like da doink off his shoulder and right to Khalil Mack. It's like, that's a catch you
gotta make.
You routinely have to make. Yeah. And there was another one across the middle where it was just like boom, boom into his chest, and like, what are you doing? And it's just sometimes with those receivers, you end up scratching your head and you don't get it. But again, great competition. I don't have the thing out. I'm gonna have to start bringing it out here, but. Joe and I go toe-to-toe here for the picks. Right now, we're knotted up. We're tied. The loser has to drink a big football-shaped size glass of liquor. Lately, it's been, in the last 2 years, been vodka and some kind of juice, and we have a lot of fun with it, and we hope you guys join us for that moment when we do that. All right. First of all, tomorrow night, we have the Arizona Cardinals going into Seattle to play the Seahawks. The Cardinals just snuck out a win the first time these two teams played. Seattle on a 2-game losing skid, I think it is here, just not looking very good. Their defense was struggling, but now the offense, it seems like they're getting leaky here, and people are getting hands on Russell Wilson, and he's making mistakes here, not looking to be in that MVP situation anymore, the last 2 weeks here for him. So in Arizona, pulling out wins. How about that game against the Bills? Joe and I both picked the Bills on that one. They had the lead, even, had them in bad field position, and it's the Hail Mary. It's the Hail Mary. You have 3 defenders there.
Do something.
And on DeAndre Hopkins, you see why they went and made the trade for him and how stupid Bill O'Brien was to let him go, just trade him away for a second rounder and stuff. It's like, what are you doing, dude? Because he just came up and snagged it right out of the air out of it. Should have been over, but Kyler Murray rolling out to the left here, making the throw right before he goes out of bounds, and the rest is history. So Arizona, they're an up-and-down team. They press a lot here and have been coming out with some wins, but again, some of these injuries they've been having, it's got to take its toll at times here. Seattle, playing at home, even though there is no 12th man there. I think this is the time they're going to kind of step up and bring it back. They're on that 2-game losing skid. I think they're going to battle back against this division rival and pull out a victory here.
Yeah, Arizona Cardinals, as good as their offense is, I mean, it is pretty amazing. They do a really good job. They put up points every single week. The one downside to this team is the injuries that they have accumulated on the defensive side of the ball. And it's becoming too much to overcome. They have to literally outscore their opponent in order to win games at this point. And I think Seattle is a more complete team. They're a healthier team right now. I really do like the defense has improved with the additions of like a veteran like Carlos Dunlap, who they got in a trade. And Jamal Adams is back in the backfield for the secondary. So there's a lot to like with this Seattle defense. They're starting to come on and play better together. As far as Russell Wilson goes, Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. I mean, everything runs through him on the offense side of the ball. I feel like Seattle's going to have too many weapons, especially in the receiving core, to deal with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And I hate to say it, but I guess Greg Olsen. I mean, yeah, not that exciting. But nonetheless, Seattle, I feel like they're going to be home. They're going to be more comfortable, even though there isn't a 12th man there. Seattle, I feel like they're due for a win. I feel like they're going to end up splitting with the Cardinals, and Seattle gets the win here on Thursday.
There you go, Tom Leiter. We go and pick your team here. Here we go. Sunday now, Cincinnati and the Washington football team. All right, Cincinnati. Yeah, the Bengals have been playing some good teams here and there and playing some good games. It's nice to see Joe Burrow out there, get in and out there. And for me, so far, it's been a success story, I think, for those guys. They've been able to work through what they've got. I mean, they're not – we knew this team wasn't going to be, from worst to first and just kick it right back in, especially with the rivals that they have in that division.
I mean, we kind of expected Joe Burrow to be as good as he's showing, but you don't really know. And for him to come in his rookie year and perform the way he is and leading this offense and taking this team on his shoulders and making them a competitive team week in and week out, that's pretty impressive for a rookie to do at the quarterback position. So I think all in all, this team, if they keep building and adding the right pieces, they could really turn this organization around pretty quickly. They still got Mixon at the running back spot, but they really, really need to work on this offensive line. It's really hurt. It's really banged up. It's not very good. But going forward, they're definitely going to have to add some big men up front. Defensively, like we talked about this before, not so much in the secondary. Linebackers are kind of youthful, but the D-line is getting older. So it seems like they – except for the fact that they did acquire DJ Reader from the Texans to put him in the middle. But they need to build more youth around that D-line to get them back to where they once were as a hard-nosed defense. But until they do that, I feel like those are the types of things that's going to kind of hold them back right now. Offensive line, basically it's the trenches. It's offensive line and defensive line. They need to really work that out. Until they do, I don't see them winning a lot of games especially. But Washington is interesting because Washington recently, incredible performance by Alex Smith last week. The week prior, he had another good game as he came into that game kind of like second quarter-ish, midway through, and performed well. Brought Washington all the way back against the Giants and almost won the game. Last week, put on a real strong performance, but fell short. This week, I feel like much of the same is going to, end up happening with Washington. As they got with Alex Smith, it gives them a new, fresh breath of air. There's some positivity around the club now. They really believe in Alex Smith. Yes, he's an older veteran, but he's performing really well with this team. And if the offense is able to put up points like they have been the last couple of weeks, it makes it easier on the defense. So I am going to go with Washington this week against the Bengals.
I think I'm going to agree with you here, too, on this one. Washington, they're not as bad as I thought they would be this year. But, again, changes have already been made early on. You don't see Dwayne Haskins there anymore. They shut the door on that whole experiment already. And with the injury to Kyle Allen, there goes Alex Smith in there. Like you said, you kind of say it's like, yes, he is but he is a veteran quarterback that they didn't have in there before.
Yeah, and
he has the experience, and he doesn't force turnovers here and there. He's had a couple mistakes happen, not due to what he's done. It's to do with the other players and what had happened. So mistake-free football, get in and out there. And I really like what's going on with their young running back, too, as well. And you just got to get the ball out there. I think I'm going to agree with here, too, with Washington. I like their defense here. They're going to press on Cincinnati. I think it's going to be a tough game, back and forth. But I'd say Washington 2 here is going to edge them out.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson is the guy that you're thinking of. I just want to say this about why Alex Smith was the original starter, too.
Yeah, I know.
He had that critical injury that maybe some Washington football team fans, I guess. It's weird to say all that.
It is.
But some don't know that. Alex Smith was the starting quarterback, was brought in from Kansas City to be the guy, suffered a critical and almost an impossible injury to come back from, but nonetheless he's there and he's making it work.
Absolutely. All right, now we have the Atlanta Falcons going into New Orleans now with Jameis Winston there at the helm. This is going to be an interesting game. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's going to be a little closer than it would have been if Drew Brees was in there. Interested to see how Jameis Winston is going to play here. Atlanta, again, they're just not playing well altogether as a team, mainly even here on defense. I'm going to stick with the home team with New Orleans, and I'm going with Jameis to get his first W, and he'll be eating it all day.
Well,
maybe not so much because that violates COVID rules, I think. So.
Well, this offense is not going to be the same without Drew Brees there.
That's true.
It's going to be very different now that they're going to utilize Jameis Winston, a guy who does tend to make some mistakes here and there. How much can Sean Payton curb that in 1 week? That's going to remains to be seen. Atlanta's defense has been struggling, but Atlanta's offense really hasn't been playing that bad. I mean, they've actually lit up the scoreboard quite often. It looks like Calvin Ridley is trending towards coming back this week, and if that's the case, I don't know who the Saints are going to defend because they got Julio, they got Calvin Ridley, they got a lot of weapons on that side. Well, I'm going to go Atlanta in this one.
Right.
Because I just feel like Atlanta will be able to capitalize on offensive drives a little bit more often than the Saints will.
Yeah, I think with the Saints, they're going to utilize Alvin Kamara a lot in this whole thing. Again, dish offs and go along with it too. And if they do that, then maybe the defense creeps up a little bit too. Might give an opportunity for Michael Thomas to get something. And even Jared Cook's here for that matter too as well. All right, here now we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers undefeated going into Jacksonville. Jacksonville played hard last week. They were
with the rookie again.
They were monsters.
Jake Luton.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Playing
getting it close. Pittsburgh, again, they've been in a lot of close games here, too, as well. Yep. So, this can be up and down here. What do you got here with Pittsburgh and Jacksonville?
Well,
is this going to be the trap game?
I don't think so. Jacksonville Jaguars, listen, as good as they've been playing with the rookie Jake Luton, it's kind of interesting now. You're starting to see a quarterback yet again come from a backup role, thrust into a starting role, and playing extremely well like Gardner Minshew once did. Now, does this create a little bit of a quarterback controversy with Minshew being hurt, now due to come back? I don't know if it's this week, but now who do you start going forward? Like Jake Luton looks like the offense performed better with him, as the starter. Now, does that mean when Minshew's healthy enough, are you just going to hand the ball back over to him? Should you stick with what's working right now? That's going to be interesting to see. But Pittsburgh, they got a great defense. They got a really good offense to pair with it. Big Ben is playing in this game, so that's pretty much the reason why I'm going to go with the Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to go with the Steelers as well. Again, just to write it out, Jacksonville does play hard here, but Pittsburgh, again, better defense. Just playing all together as a team. You've got that veteran presence at quarterback as well. Let us know out there, too, with these picks as we're going through the picks. What do you guys have? What do you guys think? You have a different opinion on what we have. Light it up there in the comments. We'd love to hear from you out there. All right, so now the New England Patriots, they pull off that victory in a monsoon there against the Baltimore Ravens. And now they go into Houston, and I'm sure the NFL at first, when they put this game together, they're like, all right, this is going to be a great matchup here and there. Now it's not so much here.
If Hopkins was there, then yes.
Yes, yeah. It's going to be tough. Again, Houston, just not a very good team. And New England, they're not very good as well, but, they do have Bill Belichick, and they perform their scheme very well and utilize players that they do have. Like you said before, when he brought Harris, the running back, really running hard, despite the injuries that they have. They haven't had Julian Edelman in there for a while, too. I mean, they're getting other wide receivers involved. They didn't even know who their names were.
Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, Myers,
is the guy that's the go-to guy right now.
Yep. So I can see New England going into Houston here and pulling out a victory here with Cam Newton. But I think it's still going to be even a closer game.
Yeah, I mean, this game, really what it's all about is can Houston's defense stop the run game? It's really what it is. Houston doesn't have the best secondary. We all know that. But I feel like if their linebackers can stop the run, it gives Houston a chance to win this game. But I'm not going to go with Houston. I'm going to go with New England in this one. I feel like they're just better coached. And even though Romeo Crennel is now the guy in Houston, and by all accounts, it seems like in NFL circles they're saying that Romeo Crennel really has a legitimate shot in staying the head coach of the Houston Texans. So that's something to look forward to there, Texan fans. But New England, I'm going to go with New England.
Something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go with New England. I believe in Bill Belichick. He's going to try to figure out how to stop this Houston offense, which without Hopkins, it's not really that hard.
Poor Texans fans out there. We have a lot of people that watch the show and friends here that are Houston Texans fans. And I'm sure they had big hopes.
We all
forward,
did.
But
I mean, we had big hopes for Houston until the bomb got dropped and they traded Hopkins for a bag of peanuts. And all
that was the death blow.
All they got back was an injured running back, and guess who's injured right now? That same running back they traded for in David Johnson. Now he's not available. Now it looks like they got Duke Johnson as the starter. Exactly. So it's like, not only did you trade away your number one and one of the best receivers in the league, but the guy that you traded for is now injured and not playing. So how'd that work out?
Who we thought you were going to get.
That's
right. You want to use it that way. You got who we thought you were going to get, and there you go. And now it's Romeo Crennel's job to make it work.
That's right.
All right, here we go. So I agree with you there, too, in New England. All right, so next we have Philadelphia and Cleveland here, Joe. What do you think about this matchup?
Who knows? I mean, to be completely honest, it's the same evaluation that I had last week with Cleveland. It's like you don't know what either of these teams are going to show up. Is Philly's offense going to show up, and they're going to be able to march down the field on Cleveland's defense and rack up the score before anybody notices, and then it makes it harder for Cleveland to come back? Or is it going to be that Cleveland shows up yet again, plays a pretty good game defensively, just does what – listen, Cleveland Browns, if they're able to run the football, and we've seen the Eagles' defense struggle against the run, that's going to open up the whole playbook for Cleveland. It's going to open up the play action. It's going to open up a lot of avenues in the passing game for the Browns. In this one, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in either quarterback, really. But I have a little bit more confidence in Baker Mayfield than I do Carson Wentz, because I've seen time and time again this season Wentz just keeps making critical mistakes on drives. He's almost like the Eagles' worst enemy, behind his own line. He's like a double agent. He's like killing their drives as they go. So I don't have confidence in him. I'm going to go with Cleveland yet again this week.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you, too, on that front as well, because even though Cleveland last week, they were able to only muster up 10 points, they could have had more, which what do you think about that the move with Nick Chubb? I understand he wanted to get out of, and get down or whatever to run the clock out and assure the win, but I still think even putting up that extra touchdown 17, that puts the game kind of out of reach, with a minute left over.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just kind of funny how people were like, oh, he killed, fantasy fans here and there, but then did the right thing. And I'm like,
But did the right thing.
He kind of did, but did he really need to, And then
I
he
mean, he
even went
could've-
out of bounds. Why didn't he just stop and go onto the ground and just kneel or something? You know what I mean?
We've seen running backs in the NFL history all screw up, right? Like look at Todd Gurley. Remember with the Falcons how they told Matt Ryan in the huddle told him, listen, it's going to be a run, but don't score. Like get down on the ground at the 2-yard line, just sit. And he ends up running to the 2 and then kind of tries to stop because all his momentum's going, but ends up falling right at the goal line and scores too soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. And then if you look at Philadelphia, for me, look at their record and then who have they won against, who they beat.
Yeah.
Nobody really. Well, Cleveland, they've played some tough teams along the way and pulled out some victories.
Not to mention Cleveland is 6-3 right now.
Absolutely. So I think just overall they're the better team. It's no real question here. And Philadelphia internally dealing with a lot of turmoil right now. And we'll see how if they lose again here, how that unfolds. And this makes the NFC East a little more interesting as well, So that would maybe put the Washington football team, if they win, up the top now by half a game, I think, or so.
It's
amazing. So it'll be nuts. Yeah,
it's so amazing.
Yeah. Somehow the Giants won't play and still now take first place and maybe in a tie with the Washington football team.
Right.
So there you go. This is NFL 2020. Here we go. All right, Detroit Lions. At the Carolina Panthers. Panthers suffer, a tough loss there, I think, last week. And the Detroit Lions, that was a tough game. It was going neck and neck, and then the Detroit Lions pull out that game right at the end here, too. And Matthew Stafford still playing hard despite even injuries, to his throwing hand, and the fingers all jacked up.
I mean, we've said it before. We'll say it again. Matt Stafford is one of the toughest quarterbacks in this league.
Unlike Nick Foles, who just, banged and bruised his hip and then just laid down like he was dead and cried.
Just say Nick Foles folds like a lawn chair.
Yep, he does. All right, so here you go. So now we've got the Lions and the Panthers. I think this is going to be a shootout, a tough game here. Man, I think I like the way Teddy Bridgewater's been playing too as well. This is nuts. I think I'm going to go with the Panthers for the hell of it, just because even the Lions are still the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, I like
it's gonna be a tough one.
I like Carolina's offense. I do like Detroit's offense. Obviously, you cannot not like them with Matt Stafford at quarterback. But Carolina, I like their defense a little bit better than Detroit's right now.
That's true too.
So I'm going to go with Carolina. I think that they're a better overall team. They're a team that Detroit doesn't normally face, so they might have a little bit of trouble with them. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Panthers over Detroit.
All right, here now, the Tennessee Titans go into Baltimore. Baltimore suffering that loss, and the Titans also losing a game that they had. You want to talk about, I totally forgot about last Thursday. Oh, that was a game, too, where I was hemming and hawing about. I'm like, man, the Colts could have this. I really want to pick the Colts. I'm like, well,
it could go
Titans.
either way.
I'm like, I'm going to go with the Titans, because they're due for another one here, and they had it and somehow just let it slip away. And within 2 minutes again, special teams, blocked punt, and then another penalty, and then boom, quick scores by the Colts just like that, and they're back in it.
I thought the Titans were on their way to win that game. And then the momentum shifted dramatically and changed everything. And it's like Tennessee, it's almost like they blacked out as a football team. They just blacked out. They don't know what happened. And then when they came to and woke up, they're like, wait a second, we lost? What just happened?
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers beat us? Are you serious? I couldn't believe what I was watching. The Colts, hey, I got to give it to them. Listen, the Colts defense, one of the best defenses. I'll just say that. One of the best defenses in football. And if you don't believe so, why don't you go watch them? Watch them. They're pretty good. They fly to the football. They can stop the run. They're great against the pass. That defense alone, if Phillip Rivers can limit mistakes and just manage the game, that will take this Colts team pretty far.
Right. I think at this point, though, with him, which I noticed in that game, it seemed like he kind of hesitated too long to where he was like, this guy is open. I'm going to throw it to him now. And it's already, the route is past where it should have been thrown already, to where it almost got him in trouble, and where you're like, yeah, you just turned a 5 to 10 yard gain to like a 2 yard gain now.
Right.
Way to go. You know what I mean? Because you're like, here you go.
Right.
So Baltimore, a game where in New England that they should have had that. They should have had that victory there.
Yeah.
But they lost to the Patriots. Tennessee trying to bounce back here. This is going to be an AFC battle to show one of the upper seeds, I think, in the AFC altogether. But ultimately, if Baltimore plays the way they kind of did last week, I think Tennessee overall is a more balanced team. They have the better weapons, too, on offense. So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans here with this one.
Yeah, this is a difficult game to pick
It
because
is.
you just don't know what team is going to show up this week.
You don't know.
Tennessee Titans, they are a legitimate good team. They have a good defense. They have a good offense. It just seems like they just can't always put it together every week. And it's a little discouraging if you're a Titans fan. It's like they lost their way since last season. It's like they don't have the rhythm. They're not all on the same page offensively. It's like we're not seeing the run game pick up like we did last season. We're not seeing Ryan Tannehill, slinging it to A.J. Brown as often, and Corey Davis and Johnny
he
Smith,
missed
the
him
tight
a few
end.
times in that
Like,
game,
yeah,
too. It would have
that's
been
what I'm
just
saying. Like,
game changers.
So they're just not hitting on all cylinders right now. So, I mean, you take that with all the Baltimore Ravens coming off of a loss, a team that they should have beat in the Patriots. Both teams are pissed off right now. You know both teams are going to give it their all this week. It's going to be hard for me. I can't go against the Ravens. I just, even though they played bad last week and they kind of gave up the run, this is going to be a battle either way. But I'm going to go with the Ravens on this.
All right, excellent. Here we go. All right, now the New York Jets at the Chargers. The Chargers, I've been rolling with them every single week just about because I know that they play hard. I like their quarterback. He's been playing hard. They have potential here and what they potentially could be here.
Yeah.
Joey Bosa's set to probably return this week, and the Jets. The Jets are still the Jets. I still am going to stick with. They are not getting their win. They just had their bye week, right? So there you go. That was their first win. So now
they didn't have to play.
Yeah, they didn't have to play. So now they're back in the same motions. I don't think they did anything in that off week to really retool their team to get into a winning way. And they're just up and down altogether on the defense. At times, they seem like they can get their scheme together and force the team into some tough situations. But then, like in that Patriots game, they had them on the ropes. And then for your final drive, when you're going to shut down the team, you go full out prevent cloud and give them 2 halfback, screens right in a row to get all their chunks there, and then a hook beat you on a open zone. What are you doing? You know what I mean? No, the coaching staff, the whole coaching staff should be fired at this point. But
I think we said that already.
After
before.
I digressed here, I think finally now maybe I could go with it here. The Chargers can finally pull off that win I've been begging for here. So, yes.
The Jets,
if they can't beat the Jets, then I don't know. Maybe I've just been wrong the whole time.
I'm sorry, but the Jets actually showed something before the bye week with Joe Flacco at the helm.
Flacco.
With finally
That's
the
true.
receiving core intact. They finally had Perryman. Brashard Perryman starting. They had their rookie and Denzel Mims starting. Jameis Winston played well. The offense seemed to play much better. They had all their weapons, and they showed something for once against the Patriots. Yes, Patriots are also a losing team. But nonetheless, Jets are last in the league right now. So they showed some promise against another weaker opponent. But this isn't another weaker opponent. The Chargers' record does not tell how good this team is.
Right.
The rookie quarterback, Justin Herbert, is absolutely killing it in his rookie year. I mean, he's got weapons to throw to. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got Mike Williams. And he's got some young running backs that have performed really well in the absence of Austin Eckler. So I think, and when you have a defense like the Chargers defense does, Joey Bosa's due to come back this week, and if that happens, it's just going to be more trouble for the Jets. like I said before, Chargers are just better overall on the roster, and I feel like they're just going to pretty much run away with this one.
There you go. All right. Next up, the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos. Broncos, again, coming off another loss. Drew Lock seems like it's really starting to affect him a little bit, too, and his mentality. You know, there's some of these tougher games, not getting those wins. He really takes it hard and very emotional. And the Miami Dolphins, since making the switch, yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick was doing well, getting them into some games
they
here.
They were still winning games.
Yep, absolutely. They make the switch. People kind of had a head scratcher there, but Tua looks good. He gets out on the run and still makes some plays. It's a little different kind of look than what you would see from Ryan Fitzpatrick. And it's kind of interesting, too, to see the old lefty out there slinging it out there and making some plays.
That's right.
It's odd to look at, but
yeah, I mean,
very cool.
And Tua, listen, we said this in the before this even started. Everyone's like wondering, well, when is Tua going to play right away? Is he going to play late? This is kind of what we expected. We expected them to start with the veteran first, and then when it came time, when they had 100% confidence in him knowing the playbook and him being able to execute everything in practice and so forth, now you're seeing him be able to start. That's pretty much the reason why he started out of thin air, is because now they had total confidence that he could handle the offense. He was doing probably really good in the film room, being able to read defenses and whatnot. So now they're like, all right, you know what? He's ready. Let's put him out there. And now you're seeing the fruits of his labor. Him coming back from major hip surgery to become healthy, and now he's a starting NFL quarterback out there making plays left and right. So you got the Dolphins. Listen, Dolphins have a little bit of an underrated defense right now. Not given a whole lot of credit, in the media, even in like the commentary and everything in these games. It's like they're not praising how really well this Dolphins team is. I think they're overachieving a little bit right now, but nonetheless, they're doing it at the right time. This is where you make your move, and you see in the AFC East that it's like Bills, Dolphins. You know what I mean? The Patriots are not in the running right now. In that division. So it looks like there's a little bit of a shift now in the AFC East. It looks like the Dolphins are getting a lot better. The Bills are a lot better, and the Miami Dolphins are playing Denver Broncos, a team that got beat up last week. The Raiders beat up Drew Lock. It looks like he's not going to be able to play in this game because his ribs got bruised or something like that. He had a rough go last week. So if that's the case, I expect the kid Rippin there to maybe start again. And even though he played well before, listen, I really like this Dolphins team. I like Tua. I like what he's doing. He's not making mistakes. He's not doing too much. I think the Miami Dolphins are on a rise. I'm going to go ahead and just jump on the bandwagon right now, and I'm taking Miami against Denver.
All right, here. I'm going to agree with you as well. I like the way it's trending, too, and they're one of the tougher teams here. The way if the Bills, they keep squandering some of these victories here that they should be pulling off and showing again to show that they are the team in the AFC East to beat. They're going to have Miami here chipping away on them.
If they're not careful, man, if they're not careful and they don't keep winning, who knows? You never know.
You don't. You never know. And then again, we're going to bring up one of the games we brought about last week when we talked about the Patriots and whether they are going to be a sink or swim. That game in Miami later on this year, that's in Miami, where Miami usually plays them hard and wins. That could be a decider here for this division, and put down the Patriots for good and out of the playoffs. So, and all that for them. But it's funny though, like you said, though, when you talk about narratives and certain teams that they like and stuff like that. How funny is it when Patriots, after they lost the last couple, they're down, they're not, and then they beat the Ravens and they're like,
they're back.
Never doubt Belichick. They still have a chance to make the playoffs here. They are mathematically not out of it. They're in it. Still, watch out. And it's just funny. That's the way it goes. But Miami, they're like, oh, Miami. Huh. All right. Good for them.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, we did. We had them
right.
second in the division, at least, and that's where it stands right now. All right, now the Dallas Cowboys here going into Minnesota. Minnesota coming off of a win in Chicago. It wasn't pretty, though. I mean, again, they had some issues going
But
forward.
is it ever
they
pretty?
did get the run. No, not really.
In
But
the
I mean,
interdivision game like that,
that's true.
It's a drag them out, black and blue. Like they both teams come out beat up. Like it was. And I don't know what it is with like Chicago, Detroit, Minnesota, but whenever they have primetime games with these teams, I don't know, is it just me? But I think it's like one of the most boring games to watch. I mean, I like defensive games
that ends
myself.
up being a lot of games I watched.
But
I'm like,
I don't know what it is about those teams. Whenever they play each other, it just seems it's like,
Yeah. I know, and they're focusing on Dalvin Cook, ready for him to have like a big run, and he never did, really. They shut him down for most of the game. But here they are playing the Dallas Cowboys, who are struggling. Are they going to be able to start the Red Rifle now this week? Or are they
it looks like
go
he's trending to come back.
Yeah, because I know they were saying they activated him again here, so he's good to go. But again, the other kid's been playing really well though too.
Yeah, Garrett Gilbert.
Gilbert. Yep.
AKA Gilbert Grape.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
I say that at work. It's hilarious.
So.
But yeah, I mean, so Dallas again, they've kind of fell off the earth with the injuries that they had, and losing Dak now has shown you even how important he was to this team. The funny thing is the disappearance of Zeke Elliott after all this too, as well. If he's supposed to be this great running back, too, here you're supposed to elevate yourself and step up here too as well. But I understand with the injuries on the offensive line too,
they got no
have it
line
so much. So
I mean, really, all they got is
it's funny
Zach
though
Martin.
when you have your teams where they invest in some of these running backs, though, you see why the quarterbacks wanted the money here and there, too.
But here's the thing, too, is like we want to point out that like, Dak is important to the team. Yes, is he important to the team? Absolutely, he's their starting quarterback. However, I would argue that it's more of an importance that their offensive line isn't healthy. Because if their offensive line was healthy and playing, you would see. Listen, their offense isn't bad. It's not bad. Whether you have Andy Dalton in there or Garrett Gilbert in there, they could execute. They could move the football. They could put up points. But without that offensive line, that greatly hinders the quarterback play, greatly hinders Zeke running the football. So defensively is really where they're just hurting big time with injuries, with not executing on the defense, and that's their biggest weakness right now in Dallas is the defense. Because of that, I mean, I've been critical about the Vikings early on this season, but it seems like they're playing much better than the first half. Seems like they're playing winning football and coming together as a football team. I really like Minnesota. I mean, when you have Dalvin Cook on that side of football, a pretty healthy offensive line, what's not to like in this offense? Justin Jefferson, a rookie who's kind of emerging right now and trending to becoming that legit number one
he's had
type
some
of
big
receiver.
plays in the last game as well.
And Adam Thielen, he's more of a number two guy.
Yeah.
So if Justin can lock down and be that number one guy, that deep threat, that guy that's going to open it up underneath for Thielen, that's when this Minnesota offense is going to be even harder to contend with. Defensively, it seems like they're playing better. Their young corners are starting to get the grasp of those jobs there, and it's paying off on the defense right now. So I'm going Minnesota against Dallas.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here too. I think Minnesota again overall so far at this point even too is just the better team and the healthier team at this point too as well.
Right.
All right, here Green Bay now going into Indianapolis. Indy just pulled off that win against the Titans, which we saw, but for me again it wasn't something crazy that the offense was really doing. Yes, the defense played well. Philip Rivers and them, they were staying in the game. But again, like I said, it seemed like when I'm watching that, I'm watching the Colts had kind of been like, oh man, here they go. They're putting up a fight now, and they can get it. And then they just weren't doing enough. It was almost like watching that Bears game too. It was like they're doing enough, but they can't get there. And the special teams bailed them out and got them to win. So now looking at Green Bay again, yes, they've had their times to where they haven't looked so good as well. But right now at this point, Aaron Rodgers is still just dialed in, and he's got Devontae Adams there too as well. He's got all his weapons at his ability there, and Aaron Jones still as well playing lights out. I think Green Bay is going to come in here into Indianapolis and pull out another victory here and kind of show and elevate that in the NFC, because it seems like not a lot of people focusing about the NFC so much either, that, hey, we're still here too, and we're one of the best teams in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, Green Bay, they've had a good season. They're playing extremely well, especially when Aaron Jones is in that lineup. It just makes them a completely different animal to contend with offensively. Now, also, what I'm hearing is Alan Lazard is making he's been activated back to the active list, onto the roster from his injury. It looks like he's trending toward playing this week, and if that happens, that gives him another weapon to throw to for Aaron Rodgers. This defense for Green Bay's kind of been – they play well at times, and then other times it's like they don't show up. But I think that Green Bay's offense will be able to overcome that. The Colts, listen, this is the game right here. It's Colts defense versus Green Bay's offense. If Green Bay can score points, this game's over. It's just that simple. I don't think the Colts will be able to match the point for point against this good offense that Green Bay has. I'm going to go with Green Bay against the Colts, and that's it.
That's that.
That's that.
All right, here, we talked about this a little earlier when we were talking about the COVID protocols.
Yes, sir.
Kansas City Chiefs, Las Vegas Raiders here in Vegas at the Death Star, and we'll see who's going to be active, I guess, for this game. Again, it looks like most likely a lot of those guys are going to be back off of here because, again, they're just taking the safe route and saying these guys had contact with them. Right. And they rapidly test them and every day and get it going. So we'll see these guys moving forward here. But Kansas City would like to come back now and go into Vegas and pull off a victory
of course
here, too.
Would.
What do you got in this one, Joe?
This one I feel a little bit torn on. I normally don't pick my Raiders to win, you know that, but I just don't like. I don't know if Paul Gunther in this defense, if he's going to be creative enough like he was the first time around. You know what I mean? I feel like so far the last couple of weeks, it seems like he is blitzing a little bit more often. He's creating more pressure. This defensive line has emerged and is playing better. I don't know how much of that is Gunther's scheme or if it's the D-line coach. But all in all, I really like the Raiders' offense. I don't think the Chiefs can stop them. I feel like the Vegas Raiders can only stop themselves on offense. And as far as Kansas City goes, it's the same thing. I feel like the Chiefs' offense, they only stop themselves, and I don't think the Raiders' defense is going to do much. So all in all, I think this is going to be just a shootout, basically. Not in a shootout in terms of like high scoring, but it's just going to be offense versus offense. I don't think neither defense is going to really do a whole lot to the opponent to stop them. And I feel like it's going to be whatever team has the ball last is going to end up winning this game. I think that the Chiefs are going to come away with this one this time around. I think Andy Reid's going to come up with some interesting, creative plays that the Raiders have not seen on tape yet. And that's going to cause some problems there.
I think a key to this one is time of possession here. I think the Raiders are going to try and stay on the field and run the ball a bit more, too, and work off the play action with Derek Carr and keep the Kansas City offense off of the field, too, because you know how quick they can kind of score back. Like you said, it could be going back and forth here with these guys. That's got to be their game plan. But like you said, it's just as hard to come in and go into the kingdom and beat the Chiefs. But then to come back over here, I know the Chiefs are going to want that win back, and they are right now the best team in the AFC. So I'm going to ride with the Chiefs as well too. But it could be the Vegas Raiders if they can take them both 2 games. I mean, that's great for them, and power to them too. It is going to be a tough game though.
Yeah,
too,
this is a very important game for both teams. For one thing, it's to break the tie for the Chiefs on the Raiders, and another thing for the Raiders, it's to come within 1 game of that lead for the division.
Absolutely. All right, now that brings us to Monday Night Football, and we have the Los Angeles Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This seems like a nice matchup here on Monday night. Finally, for some of these games here on Monday nights haven't been so good. But we've got the Rams and the Bucs. Rams, again, they're a questionable team. I don't know what I'm getting every week. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like a gift. You open it up, and you're like, oh, what is it going to be? Oh, boom, here's. But And I don't know who's going to be running it either, too. One day it's Malcolm Brown, then it's going to be Henderson, and then you're just not sure. Is it going to be Akers? Don't know with this.
They use
with this
them
team.
all.
Yeah,
That's
they
the
do.
problem.
It's and what I think a key to this here too is for Jalen Ramsey to be on Mike Evans and just shut him down like he did last week with DK Metcalf.
You can do that. Go ahead. Take away Evans because guess what? They have Chris
They have a bunch of other guys
they got
too.
Antonio Brown, who actually played pretty well.
Yeah,
it just sucks that Brady can't reach him. On deep routes.
Missed him on a few times. Yeah.
So that's going to kind of hinder the Tampa Bay offense as good as it could have been. Got all these weapons, but you can't really attack deep down the field because you can't reach the guys. So that definitely limits Tampa Bay's offense going into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's going to be a shootout here, I think, with the Rams and the Bucs here. It's gonna be. We're gonna see if they can stop that offensive line of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Stop Aaron Donald getting into that backfield and hitting Tom Brady. Because the one thing you have noticed is when you can pressure Tom Brady up the middle, he made a lot of mistakes this season so far, even a lot.
Yeah.
So. I would like to say Tampa Bay here at their home too, but I would really enjoy seeing the Rams win here too. And I'm just going to go with my gut with this one. I'm going to say the Rams are going to pull out a victory here against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Just like you said before, you don't know this team, the LA Rams are so questionable. They're up and down every week. I don't know what I'm getting from them. Tampa Bay, I feel like this game is more defensive than anything. I feel like this is going to be defense versus defense. I really like Tampa's defense overall. I think they got the right linebacking core. They got a great secondary. They got a good defensive line for pass rushing. I really like what they have there. And how could you not like the weapons they got on offense? I'm going to go with Tampa in this one. I feel like at home they're going to do just barely enough to get this game. Probably end up winning by a field goal.
Yeah, it will be tough because, again, we saw that team, even the last couple of weeks, start off a bit slow. Last week it looked like they were getting a shock. And then they were able to come back, and take the lead, but then take the lead by a significant amount and just shut them down. So, if I think that happens with this game, I mean, will they be able to power back and fight back into this one? So, we'll see that moving forward, though. But that's it. That's our picks for this coming week. Hopefully, it'll be another tight one here, and maybe we'll be tied again like we have been for the last couple of weeks here. But we definitely appreciate you guys watching the show this week. We will be back next week for Thanksgiving and stuff, and so it'll be another exciting week of football here. Joe, what do you guys say to these guys out here?
I just want to say a happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Thanks for all the support, guys. We really, really love you guys out there. If you want to become a know-it-all, real
if you're
simple.
not one yet.
If you're not one yet. If you have friends that love football, love to talk football, invite them as well. You can find us on Facebook or YouTube. Just search Football on the Know Show. On YouTube, hit the subscription button and hit the notification bell to get our latest and greatest updated content. And we're also on Twitter, at FB_know. You can hit us up on Twitter, and we have all different kinds of articles and stuff that we like to post on Twitter as well. Even some
feel-good stories,
funny stuff.
Too,
there's some funny skits on there as well. So it's all good fun, good time. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. See you guys next week.